Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Yes, we did when we're talking about Human Development Index or development plans just earlier on in our conversation. We said security, without security, almost all the indices in a development plan will be almost impossible to achieve. So we're asking this morning, where are we with regards to handling our security? 1 minute, it looks like things are a bit calm. The next minute, it looks like there's fire on the mountain. Right now, where precisely are we? What you heard there was an earlier report by members of the National Assembly, talking about the security situation in their different constituencies and bringing it to the fore of the leadership, at least within their own purview. So what more? I mean, apart from the president meeting also with service chiefs and mandating them to crush the bandits, we also saw just last week, before the week ended, that the federal government approached the courts for 2 bandit organizations to be designated terrorists. What is the implication of that as well? So those are some of the matters we're sinking our teeth into this morning. And joining us to do that is Mr. Felix Ogbaudu, who is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning. Well, this is the Yuletide approaching already, and I'm sure a lot of people are gearing up to travel, or perhaps not. All of it will be heavily dependent, of course, on finances, and secondly, security. For a number of people, they're very concerned about that. Moving from one part of the country to another, you always have to do some due diligence now before you do. If you were to, based on what you have seen so far, based on movement from security authorities and some of the recent happenings within our security sphere, if you were to give an advisory, would you say it's okay to travel?
Well, if it is absolutely necessary to travel, where people can travel. But if it's not necessary, if it's not mandatory, it's not compulsory, you don't need to, if you have the insecurity situation in the country. But that's not to say that we've not had some measures of improvement in combating security in the country. Yes. Because the situation presently is not as bad as it was some time back. But like I always say, the truth of the matter is that we have failed woefully to prioritize security. Like rightly observed in the opening remarks, in the absence of security, where insecurity thrives, no form of human endeavor takes place. Absolutely none. Take some states ravaged in the northeast by Boko Haram. What's going on there? Maybe just now the situation has reduced drastically. Schools have resumed, commercial activities are coming up, people begin to move around, socializing. You recall some years back, the band were even attacking Muslims in the mosques. When they started, it was attacks on Christians in the churches, later Muslims in the mosque. So the situation in Nigeria, security situation in Nigeria is, to a very large extent, very worrisome. Just last week here, Mr. President gave marching orders to the security chiefs.
It's not the first time it's given.
No, I mean, that is, to some, it sounds like rhetorics. We're so used to it, it's not the first time. And you see, giving marching orders is one thing. Empowering people to comply with that marching order is another thing. It's a different ballgame. Are you expected to go and fight, combat this guy with their bare arms? It's not possible. And we're in a situation whereby even the security agents who are supposed to protect you and I are killed, They are kidnapped. Just
Indeed. Just
2 days ago, a DP in Edo State was kidnapped in Esako Central. We've had some months back, some soldiers somewhere along the express from Onitsha, if you are going to Wiri, were attacked and killed. Soldiers. So you can imagine the audacity, the boldness, the disregard for those. But you see, one of our biggest problems in this country, like I've always said again, is the absence of deterrence. Where there is no deterrence, impunity is fueled. I was just listening to newspaper reviewers. I sat there in the waiting room. And some people are, what are they asking for? For those that, you know, sexual assault on women, children, and all of that. They are advocating campaigning for castration of the men. If the man, that suspect is castrated, of course, when it comes, we can never ever do it again. But we're in a country where you get something done and nothing happens to you, and because nothing happened to A, B, C, D are encouraged to go ahead and do it, and with the impression and the belief that they too can get away with nothing happen to them. So we must have very serious, severe punishments that will deter people from continue to get involved in crimes. And you also recall some of the statements, utterances that some of our political leaders make don't help matters. Recall some years back, regrettably, a party chairman once said, if you defect from party A to party B, our own party, all your sins are forgiven. What is the meaning of that? Why would we put GM that kind of level? Instead of insisting that if you commit an offense, you must be punished for it. But I say, once you come to us, your sins are forgiven. That's an unguarded statement.
Some people will say that it's one thing to say, it's another thing for, you know, for you to actually be doing it and not saying anything about it. But that's on the one hand. In your first statement, you say that that's not to say that the security situation isn't improving. So I wanted to ask you, what indices would you say we should look at to know if our security situation is improving or if it's not improving?
You see, in terms of improvement, people should be able to move around freely without fear of being killed or kidnapped. That's one. Two, conduct their businesses because that's what sustains them. Three, our children should go to school. No form of harassment. People that want to socialize, we should also do that. Want to worship God, our Creator, go ahead. Go to the churches, go to the mosques. Safe. And in your house, sleep with your 2 eyes closed and enjoy your sleep. You recall not too long ago, we had an election on Anambra State. The Inspector General of Police deployed over 350,000 policemen.
No, we were told 34,000.
Okay, let's say 34,000. Sorry, not 350. I meant to say 35,000.
Yeah,
sorry about that. 34,000 policemen. And what was the reason? The threats they foresaw could disrupt that election. The question is, if we can deploy that number of police officers, 34,000 plus almost 35,000 to a number for just an election, why can't we deploy the same number to the areas that are prone with this, that are having these security challenges? Look at Sambisa Forest. We are told it's very large. Yes, it's large. But if you deploy that number, this number of XYZ from police, from the military, from civil defense and all of that, moving into the place, well equipped, armed, with armored vehicles and all of that, tankers, tanks, they will overrun all of these guys. But nothing like that.
Do our police have that sort of training? Some people will say that is that not for military? Is that not a military operation, more or less?
We have had joint military operations over time. The challenges we are facing in this country, not even one security agency can single-handedly combat them. That is gospel truth. We need to synergize. And they've been doing that since. They've been doing that. A lot of things have come up. Even the vigilantes, they have joint security agencies to combat some of these situations. You know, so they must come together. And what I always advise is, these guys that are going in there, a good number of them have sacrificed their lives and the past and all of that. If they were protected, for instance, if I'm in an armored vehicle, armored tank and all of that, no bullet can hit me. But if I'm going to attack, I will hit them. But again, someone on the other side, some of these guys are going to confront. Some of the equipment you have, they also have them. But the painful aspect is that, how did they smuggle them into this country? Who obliged them those things? But that notwithstanding, we can still confront them.
You are a police officer.
Yes,
you were a police officer, yes. A senior police officer.
I retired after 35 years.
So you tell us, I mean, how do you think that these bandits, these terrorists have become so well equipped?
Yes.
How do you think that happened?
A lot of people have talked about porosity of our borders.
Indeed.
Yes. A lot of things come into this country undetected. So that's one thing. We must intensify securing our borders.
When we talk about security, we've been told that the borders are so expansive, it doesn't make any sense to try and build a wall or even sending personnel there. You know, we've been told that it's almost impossible to man the borders. From your experience, is it something that you agree with?
We can man our own borders. We must learn to get our priorities right. Who's going to do it for us? If we cannot afford to build walls like we find in other countries, at least we can deploy men. For instance, take armed robberies, kidnappings on the highways, Abuja to Kaduna. If we had patrol vehicles by the security agencies 24/7 on that road, blaring their sirens, not just mountain, I'm not talking about mountain road blocks where they'll be extorting money and all of that, but just going up and people will be deterred to come out. But when they come out, you don't see security agencies that operate. Some of them, when they even come out, I even see security agencies, they attack them, take their arms, to go and commit these crimes. So we really need to sit up. You see, they have the training. What does it take to train them? See, that's why one of that thing I want to bring here might not be directly related to what we're talking about. I've toyed with this idea of putting up a proposal at the Ministry of Education to incorporate in our school curriculum at every level, from the nursery, primary, up to university level, on our most cherished moral values, our do's and don'ts. You know, like somebody, there's an advert I always enjoy in NTA. I support so much in NTA, but it's not too complete. They say, if you see something, say something. I've also added, when you also hear something, it's not just when you see. So what we are going to build to the school curriculum I'm talking about, the do's and the don'ts, are moral values.
Is it only for, is it not, pardon me, but some people will say, isn't that for those that are going to school? Because when you look at the, I mean...
There are so many ways beyond, I'm coming to that level. For those that are going to school, yes. They are not going to school. We have town criers all over the place. In some community where I come from, if you want to inform the community about something, it's somebody with a megaphone that goes around the town informing them. In our neighboring Francophone countries, if a stranger gets into any community, within 5-6 minutes, the head, the village head will be informed. And they go and pick him up. Say, my friend, who are you? What are you doing here? That is sensitizing the people within the environment. But here, we're so nonchalant. Oh, it doesn't concern me. Is it only when it affects you that it concerns you? No. That's why people always said security is a collective responsibility. A lot of people know those that are having firearms in their homes and all of that, but nobody can say anything. If you are scared that if you disclose this information to security operatives, they might come after you, you can pass the information anonymously. There are many ways.
Have the security operatives made that avenue? Have they made that room for people to be able to pass information to them anonymously?
Of course, there, we have a lot of police lines. The one they caption emergency. Emergency does not necessarily mean when the house is on fire or some armed robbers are attacking your house. No. You just call them, hide your number, tell them, and they work on it. That's what we're talking about, intelligence.
Mm.
So we shouldn't, this attitude of sitting on the fence is not helping matters. Just complain and complain. What are we doing to support the security architecture of this country?
From what you have seen, would you say that right now our police is better structured to be, because some people, we've talked about police reforms, we've talked about, there are those who feel very strongly that we haven't done right by the police and we cannot be making demands where we have not really invested. From what you now know of the police, and I do not know what you currently know, but would you say that the police is in a better position to be able to tackle the myriad of security challenges that confront us in many ways?
The answer is definite and capital no. Just 2 weeks back, I read one of the papers. The IG was bemoaning a situation whereby the police is grossly underfunded. It's not only the police alone, the military. And like I've always said, there are certain agencies in this country that are overfunded for doing next to nothing.
For instance?
I don't want to mention. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well,
so, listen,
let me say they don't have enough funds.
Let me tell you, if, for instance, the Nigerian police or chief of minister gets to his office and there is no lights, they go to finish it to buy petrol, there's no petrol. Use the vehicle. You can't communicate. Okay, let's close for the day. You deploy Portugal and sort that problem. We'll accept that. But somebody's in there. Oh, what was he doing? Sitting down in an air-conditioned environment, making laws. If there's no light, no this or that, you just adjourn sine die indefinitely until everything is fixed. Yet security, response for security is 24/7. Every day. Public holidays inclusive, weekends inclusive. And those guys I'm talking about, they go on recess. 2 months, 2.5 months and all of that. And they get all their salaries paid in millions. I'm told one senator gets close to 9 million. I don't know how true it is. The House of Representatives gets less than that, but it's also in millions. So we really need to prioritize security in terms of empowering them, the military and the police, or security agencies. But again, like in the good number, maybe the military. In the military, they don't joke with training. But in the police, I'm sorry to say, they have not been able to prioritize training. They need to train their men, their personnel. And my dear, if you go to most of the police training institutions, you will shed tears. Just like most of the police barracks. Pigs cannot even live in those places. Those are police barracks. You go to police training institutions, the facilities are not there. The number of cadets or recruits, officers who are undergoing training there, far outweigh the facilities that are available. Even facilities that are available, they are outdated.
So, on the one hand, I mean, if we have more and more people wanting to join the police, it will mean that there is a desire for people to join the Nigeria police.
Yes, of course.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So the question is, what exactly is preventing us from being able to rouse, would I say, to mobilize those numbers in such a way that we're able to tackle the security challenges that are confronting us?
Back to the first point I made, we must get our priorities right. You don't invest minimally and expect to reap optimally. Put it so little and get so much out. No. That's the issue. So we must make sure, let somebody set up a committee from, made up of people from all over, all interest groups. Go and ask them, what are the challenges here? If, for instance, the press goes to visit the police institutions, when you go to say, what are the challenges? You see them on ground. Accommodation grossly inadequate. The lecture halls grossly inadequate.
Well, we did that once with the police reports, and
yes.
they were not very well received, were they?
Well, are you surprised? Is that the only one? A lot of reports are submitted, and what they end up somewhere, just thrown somewhere. Again, the political will to do the needful.
But some people will say that these security chiefs, they have the president's ears. I mean, he summons them from time to time to find out for, the security situation. Can they whisper into his ears the challenges confronting them and seeing how he can, use presidential powers to at least try and solve some of the problems they're facing?
It's not an issue of whispering to his ears. It's an issue of documenting what the challenges are and hand them over to him. You're not going to whispering. And you can't convince my president don't know. He's a retired general from the army. He knows. And he has essay that, essay this, essay that. And you have a Minister of Police Affairs. You have a Police Service Commission. All of these agencies, in every state you have a Commissioner of Police. You have states under zonal AIGs. I was zonal AIG, I was AIG in 2 zones. Zone 6 in Calabar, overseeing rivers, as at that time, rivers, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, and Ebonyi. I retired from Zone 7 near Abuja, overseeing FCT Command, Niger State and Kaduna State. You have enough officers, competent hands on ground to tell whoever needs to be told what the challenges are and how to address them adequately. That's the issue. But I would have, it's just that we're running out of time. I would have also talked about the cultures that are plaguing us in Nigeria as a nation that have brought us where we are.
We'll come and talk.
One of them, before you come in, the issue of justifying the unjustifiable and defending the indefensible. Square pegs in round holes.
We'll come to that in a moment. Let me quickly go to Lagos now, where I know that Ayo has another guest waiting. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Maokwe. Incidentally, the guest is a little closer to you, although he's joining us virtually. Captain Ali Umar, former Army officer and CEO, Goldwater and Riversand. He joins us virtually. Thanks for joining us this morning. You've been listening, I'm sure, to Mr. Felix Ogbaudu, who's been talking about the challenges, especially of the police, and the challenge of collaboration that we've heard and we've been having with security agencies. By way of a brief opening, because we should be taking a break in a little while, what would you say, what's your take on some of the things that you've heard him say about the way we've been taking on this issue of insecurity?
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Maokwe, and good morning to the senior police officer. He has actually said it as aptly as it can be said. My take on what we are experiencing security-wise is in one sentence, so you can go on break. Nothing new. Absolutely nothing new. We're just recycling problems. We are recycling problems.
We are recycling problems. I don't know. Yes. What do you mean by that? Because there are those who would say they have, the issues seem to have evolved from insurgency to banditry to all kinds of things over time.
Okay, let's look at it on a problem-solution scale. There is no shortage of solutions in our country. I particularly encourage you to replay clips you've had with myself in that studio, and you will hear what the senior police officer is repeating or is saying. So there's no shortage of solutions. Rather, what we do is we recycle problems. So what I mean by recycling problems is somewhere in there, there is a benefit in these problems for the same people whom we prefer the solutions to, and they don't heed them.
What I don't understand what you mean by that. Just if you can quickly clear that one.
Okay, simple. What exactly is it you want to talk about this morning that has not been addressed in the last 6 years? Banditry, when banditry was quite at its infant stages, the solutions were profiled. Were they heeded? No, they were not. What is it the police or the armed forces or any of the paramilitary or security agencies is requesting for that is new to the ears? Okay? What is it that is new to the ears that they are requesting for? So what I'm telling you is that it's not a shortage of solutions. The solutions are there, 2 for 10 kobo, and they can be very, very well purchased, acquired. But then the problem is, as I said, there seems to be a benefit factor where you see the same problems recurring. The same problems even get bolder. The same problems even tend to poke the authorities in the eyes. The same problems rubbish the magnanimity of the state. And my friend, we are recycling problems. So basically what we do probably is we are even complaining to the problem.
Oh dear. Well, Captain Umar, my apologies. As you already mentioned earlier, we'll delve right into all these because there are some that, as you said, may have been recurring. Why are we not taking them on? Let's look at those deeper when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Two gentlemen still with us this morning, Felix Ubaudu, who is former Assistant Inspector General of Police in Abuja studio, as well as Captain Ali Umar, who is a former Army officer and CEO, Goldwater and Riverside. Well, Captain Umar, so you were saying something about the fact that we're recycling problems, and I'm just wondering, a number of people might still be wondering what that means. Is that to say that we're just winking in the dark, we know what to do, we refuse to do it? And then you mentioned the other time that there's some form of costs, benefits. I don't understand. If you can explain some of these things and help us chart a way forward. Otherwise, we will continue to jeopardize the lives of our fellow Nigerians.
Indeed, Martin, let me be a little bit more, is it transparent now, to borrow the word? What exactly can we begin to say when we see a threat form become bolder? We see them stop at nothing to rubbish the majesty and reckoning of our armed forces, of our state as in government, and still, when the call for them to actually be placed where they belong and be classified as terrorists is made, we get dilly-dallying from those at the helm of affairs who should actually spearhead this call. What do we make of a situation, for example, when names and specifics are mentioned, not home, abroad, by credible organizations? They are thrown at us free of charge. And we dilly-dally and keep hoping that time will sweep these names under the carpet. What do we make of circumstances where we have a road where even generals do not dare to tread? Rather, they will join me on the train from Kaduna to Abuja, and we sit face to face. And I feel glad that I have not lived to see this day. I probably will have committed suicide. What do you make of a situation where a country with the kind of army I was privileged to serve with now deploys women, some 300 women, to go and guard the roads? I was wondering whose wife will be on duty on such a task. When you start seeing these things, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee. We are complaining to the problem, and that's why I say the problem recycles problems for us, because they make profits from it. But gladly, The joy of democracy.
Profits. When you say some people,
every 4 years.
Just a second, Captain. When you say they make profits from them, who is making profits from what?
If it is not profitable, then why sustain it? I mean, let me stretch your minds a bit. If it's not profitable, why sustain it? Why sustain it? In fact, if I want to be mischievous, I dare say the bandits even feel insulted that they haven't earned the right to be terrorists. And I said that the last time I was in your studio. Are you sure they are not annoyed that despite everything they've done to wreak havoc on the face of this country, we are still thinking twice about calling them by their real names? Come on, let's wake up and smell the coffee. Why do we run circles around this thing? Haven't we heard where we were talking about is it the commercialization of violence? Or I don't know. There was a time very reputable sources from the military and the police, the security agencies, came out to tell you that violence has now been politicized. Violence is now an economy. And I'm telling you that we are recycling problems profitably. That's just what it is.
Okay.
There's no other way I can describe it.
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know if this other angle to the conversation is still in line with what you're saying. Just yesterday we reported that as the number of surrendering members of terrorist groups continue to rise, the Borno State government is constructing more shelters to accommodate them. There's a community-based reconciliation effort driven by the federal and state governments, and it's now in its 4th month. But not much is known about the program. Some say it's all shrouded in some secrecy. The increasing number of surrendering members of terrorist groups. Is this something of concern to you that they are surrendering, or is something to cheer?
Honestly, I don't know what to make of it anymore, and I'll tell you why. Once upon a time, like 1,000 of them were assembled somewhere in Lokoja, for trials. I don't know where those ones are now, and I cannot hazard a guess. About 1,000 or so of them, I recall, somewhere in Lokoja, were actually tried in courts. We were told they were going to be, there were so many of these verbiages, which I don't even want to recall now, that were used to describe what was being done. What has become of them? Where are they? Can we profile 10 of them and bring them and say, look, this is what this child or this young man or this person has been exposed to, and this is where he is today, and this is what he has done? Can the National Orientation Agency take on this challenge, or is just the usual, you have spoken, we have heard you, next person? So if the Borno State governor is trying to do something too, or they have already started, these things become lullaby to the citizens. They become lullaby because these days when you talk about it, Nigerians just yawn and start to doze. You see, it's one thing to sit in there in government. As my senior police officer has said, you have everything working at the touch of a button. Probably there's enough light to make you comfortable to want to stay in office all day. And to be out there in the sun, in your boots, if you know what it means to put a steel helmet on your head under the sun, you understand what I'm saying? You don't understand. It's two different things. So a lot of these things they talk about are verbiages to a propensity of Nigerians, including the law enforcement agencies and the foot soldiers. The only reason you're not hearing from the foot soldiers is probably because they've been sworn to oath. But trust me, we are recycling problems, and it's unfortunate that the soldiers and the security agencies are just the pawns in this game. And when I say pawns, if you are a chess player, you know what a pawn is. A pawn is expendable.
Particular one, and then we talk about intelligence and hopefully take that also to Mr. Weldu. In that same report, when you talk about profitability, we'll not be able to take the report though, but A couple of, the repentant or surrendered insurgents who are under training in Borno State right now said that on a daily basis today at the camps, somehow they earn something in the region of 600 to 800 naira a day. But while they were in those, while they were insurgents, they were earning something in the region of 26,000 naira every day. So do you see a way that government can balance the interests of the people who are surrendering so that they do not go back again to what they would consider profitable? Remember, the governor of Kaduna State said the same thing, that these guys have already tasted a huge amount of money. Getting them to come, into civil society and be earning good money is going to be a problem. Do you see a middle ground?
There is no middle ground in this business, Martin. You're either going to swallow the bullet or bite it or whatever, but there is no middle ground. And I'll tell you what I mean. You see, for that boy who has decided to become a repentant terrorist, whatever that means, we must make a clear statement, a very clear statement, that you are either out or you are in. And once you are in, you are in. You are dead. Let's not mince words. The fight for terrorism is not for people who do not have the liver to bell cats. We've gone beyond belling cats today. We have to kill cats. Okay? We have to kill cats. We have seen recurrently around the world where terrorists are taken out without all the paperwork and verbiages and English language we see people speaking. Some people are even taken out falsely just because there were accidental assumptions that their countries had weapons of mass destruction. That's to show you the level at which this thing cannot be condoned. So talking about the boy making 26,000 or whatever amount he's making out there, you have to make being in this business so costly that whoever wants to do it will understand that even if you make $1 million a day, you have to be alive to spend it. Not to start giving them a retirement plan and, I recall a colleague of mine once sent me something from outside, out of the country, I mean, where a military general said the terrorists has vowed to make heaven and their business out there is to ensure they see to it. This business is not for the lily liver. These are people who thrive on our fear of death, to visit woes and deaths on us. For me, I would want to say, as a senior military, as a senior police officer put it, if you can amass 34,000 people for an election, oh my, oh my.
Well, thank you.
Will give you.
No, go ahead, finish your statement.
The army will give you 68,000. You can build up troops in 100 days and then run a campaign for 30 days and finish this thing, except, of course, as I said, if there is a profit somewhere for someone sustaining and prolonging these things.
Well, I hope some people who need to listen are listening to you right now so the needful can be done. Let me ask Mr. Ubaudu, you've spoken along the line of collaboration earlier about this, among security, agents. Just over the weekend, the DSS State Director of Security in Ogun State, raised an alarm that available intelligence indicates plans by insurgents and criminal elements to carry out simultaneous attacks on military posts and bases in various border communities. That is coming against the backdrop of another report that came from the SSG in Niger State that there are plans of terrorists setting camp in Niger. Of course, it's the government of the state that is raising the alarm. So in terms of getting credible intelligence, we have them. Collaborating to action those intelligence information that we have, that's another thing altogether, wouldn't you say?
Well, thank you very much. I got the issue just raised. I believe very strongly in security agencies working together, synergizing. But like I said, there is no single security outfit that can single-handedly handle all these new security challenges we are facing as a nation. That's why they must work together. If there have any differences, bitterness and all of that, acrimonies, all of those should be buried, settled, and work and put the interests of this nation first. And there's nothing wrong in sharing intelligence. Because at the end of the day, the problem we're having is that some of them think that, oh, if you do this, do that, you get accolades from the public. If you don't do that, you are condemned by the public. But that doesn't take us anywhere. So we need to work together. And let me reemphasize again that security is everybody's responsibility, especially the issue of having to generate intelligence. A lot of things happen around us. We see these things, but we're not willing to disclose what we've seen to the security operatives so that they can be nipped in the bud before they explode and consume us. So we need to bring... I've always said too, well, when I was in service, I used to work with the traditional rulers, religious leaders, and all of that. And we achieved a lot of results at that time. So we need to work together, share intelligence, tackle whatever is coming up like that. Because once you have, if you have the intelligent, relevant intelligence, you prevent those things from coming up.
Well, sir, we have to thank you so much for sharing your honest thoughts with us this morning. Mr. Felix Ogbaudu is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police, and he's been speaking to us here in our Abuja studios. Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, just before we close, Captain Umar, I wanted to ask him how he got to Kaduna, but he already revealed it, that he went by train and he was riding alongside generals. But just before we go, I want you to give your own advisory. I mean, yes, you got to Kaduna by train. If people have to travel in this season, and a lot of people will be looking to do so, what will you be telling them to do?
It's a very simple thing. Right now, the first aid security measure for every Nigerian, whether you are in the armed forces, whether you're a general, whether you're a politician, a legislator, whatever you think you are in this country today, the first aid security measure I want to share with you is low profile. You have to learn to move low profile. This notice me syndrome. You are carrying sirens. You want everybody to know who you are. Listen. These bandits will go where they please and pick whom they want. And they've left no one in doubt about it. They've left no one in doubt about it. Until such a time when we see a better day in this country, I'll leave you with that one thing, low profile. Think about it. There are people in this country who are not even Nigerians, and they get about their businesses. How come they are not on the bandits' radar? Good morning.
Well, it's food for thought. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. Captain Umar Aliyu is a former officer in the Nigerian Army. Thank you so much for speaking with us. And he's also the CEO of Goldwater and Riversand. That's all we have to leave it for this segment. We'll be, talking about some other issue which is closely related to security. Because some people have been able to draw the line between, or draw the connection between this particular matter which we're about to take on next, and you have to stay tuned to find out what the matter is, and our current security situation. In just a moment, please stay with us.
Well, we're here, don't forget that the agency taking charge of that particular issue that you're talking about is also one of our security agencies. We'll take that on after now.